Jackie Chen threw the first punch before his gloves were even laced. His right hand cracked against the heavy bag so hard the chain snapped and the bag slid across the concrete floor of a Bangkok basement gym, leaving a black streak on the ground. What happened in the next 45 minutes would become Southeast Asian fighting legend, a story whispered about for decades in gyms from Hong Kong to Chiang Mai, a story about a 20-year-old nobody from Taiwan who walked into a private challenge match against the most dangerous female kickboxer Thailand had ever produced, and what came out the other side was something nobody in that room could explain. But we gotta back up. Just a little. Jackie Chen was not famous, not yet, not even close. In 1989, he was a kid working construction in Taipei, hauling rebar up staircases for 12 hours a day and spending his nights at a cramped boxing gym wedged between a fish market and a laundromat. He fought amateur bouts on weekends. He was fast, he was mean, and he had this switch behind his eyes where the moment a bell rang he became someone else entirely. His coach, an old Taiwanese guy named Master Gao, said Jackie didn't fight like a boxer. He fought like a man who owed somebody money. Every punch was personal. Every round was a debt he was collecting. He was 6-1 when the call came. Get this, a promoter out of Bangkok named Somkai Ratanawong ran underground challenge matches, not sanctioned bouts, not regulated events. These were private fights held in basements, warehouses, the back rooms of nightclubs. Rich men bet on them. Fighters got paid in cash, and Somchai had a crown jewel. A 23-year-old Thai woman named Niran Kaiyoisai, 5'8", 145 pounds of Muay Thai technique wrapped around the kind of athletic frame that made grown men reconsider their career choices. She was undefeated. 14 wins, 0 losses, 9 knockouts. And she didn't just beat people. She dismantled them. She broke ribs. She collapsed orbitals. She kicked with her shins the way most people swing baseball bats. And she did it with a calm, focused precision that made the violence feel almost surgical. Somchai wanted fresh meat. He reached out to gyms across Asia, looking for young male fighters who were hungry enough and dumb enough to step into a ring with Niran. The pitch was simple. Beat Niran, take home $10,000 American. Lose, and you get nothing except the hospital bill. Most trainers laughed and hung up the phone. Master Gao did not laugh. Master Gao looked across his gym at Jackie Chen, who was shadowboxing in front of a cracked mirror with his shirt off and his ribs showing because he hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days, and he picked up the phone and said one word: "When?" Now here's what nobody tells you. Jackie didn't know about Niran. Not really. Master Gao told him he'd be fighting a kickboxer in Bangkok. Male or female, it didn't matter. Jackie had never fought a woman before. He'd never fought a Muay Thai specialist before. He'd barely been outside Taipei. But $10,000 was more money than he'd make in a year hauling rebar, and he was 20 years old and full of that reckless fuel that makes young men say yes to things that should terrify them. They flew to Bangkok on a Tuesday. Master Gao paid for the tickets with money he borrowed from his brother-in-law. Jackie carried one bag. Inside it were his gloves, his mouthguard, a change of clothes, and a photograph of his mother that he kept folded in his wallet. That's it. That was the entire operation. Somkai met them at the airport in a black Mercedes. He was a thick man with gold rings on both hands and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He drove them through the city at night, past the neon and the street vendors and the temples, and he talked the entire time about how much money was riding on this fight. Serious money. He mentioned a number. Jackie's jaw tightened and he looked out the window. Master Gao, sitting in the front seat, said nothing. They pulled up to a building that looked abandoned from the outside. Cracked stucco walls, no signage, a metal door with a keypad. Somchai punched in a code and led them down a flight of stairs into a basement that had been converted into a fighting pit. There was a square of matted floor, maybe 14 feet across, surrounded by folding chairs. 60, maybe 70 seats, all of them already full. Men in suits, men with cigars, a few women in expensive dresses. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and cologne, and the particular buzz of people who had come to watch someone get hurt. And standing on the far side of the mat, wrapping her hands with slow, deliberate motions, was Niran Kaiyoisai. I swear this happened. Jackie stopped walking. He just stopped. Not because he was scared, because he was recalculating. He watched the way she wrapped her hands, the economy of her movements, No wasted motion, no showmanship. This was a person who had done this so many times it was automatic. She glanced up at him and there was no hostility in her face, no anger, just assessment. She looked at him the way a carpenter looks at a piece of wood before deciding where to cut. Jackie turned to Master Gao. "She's the fighter?" Master Gao nodded once. Jackie looked back at Niran. She was already done rapping. She stood with her weight balanced, her hands at her sides, and she watched him with that same calm appraisal. Jackie set his bag down. He pulled out his gloves. He started wrapping his own hands. And here's the thing. His hands were shaking. Not a lot, just a tremor. Just enough that he had to rewrap his left hand twice because he couldn't get it tight enough. But he wrapped them. And he stepped onto the mat. Somkai stood between them. He spoke in Thai first, then English. No rounds, no judges. Fight until one person cannot continue or submits. If you step off the mat, you have 10 seconds to return. No biting, no eye gouging. Everything else is permitted. He looked at Jackie when he said that last part. Everything else is permitted. Elbows, knees, kicks to the legs, the body, the head. This wasn't boxing. Jackie was about to fight by rules he had never trained for. Somkai stepped back. He raised his hand. The room fell silent. He dropped it. Niran moved first. She closed the distance in 2 steps and fired a low kick at Jackie's lead leg. The crack was audible across the room. Jackie buckled sideways, caught himself, and threw a jab that hit nothing but air. She was already gone, already circling, already repositioning for the next strike. Now listen. Jackie Chen was a boxer. He knew how to punch. He knew how to slip punches. He knew footwork. But Muay Thai is a completely different language. In boxing, your legs are platforms. In Muay Thai, your legs are targets. And Niran was a translator. She was going to convert every boxing instinct Jackie had into a liability. She kicked his lead leg again. Same spot. Jackie's thigh seized and he dropped his left hand to guard the leg. The moment he dropped it, she threw a straight right that caught him on the chin. His head snapped back. He stumbled. The crowd murmured. Jackie reset. He bounced on his toes, trying to shake the sting out of his leg. He circled right. Niran mirrored him. He feinted a jab. She didn't bite. He feinted again. Nothing. She was patient. She had done this 14 times before, and she knew what happened to aggressive fighters who overcommitted. They ended up on the floor looking at the ceiling. So Jackie did something Master Gao had drilled into him 1,000 times. He stopped feinting and he attacked. Straight jab, straight cross, left hook. 3 punches in maybe 1 second. The jab missed, the cross grazed her shoulder, but the left hook caught her on the temple and her legs stuttered. True story. The room gasped. Because in 14 fights, nobody had landed a clean hook on Niran Kausai. Nobody. She had the defensive reflexes of someone who'd been training since she was 8 years old. But Jackie's left hook came from an angle she hadn't expected. A tight, compact punch with almost no wind-up, and it landed flush. Niran's eyes changed. That calm assessment shifted into something sharper, something more focused. She wasn't hurt, but she was alert now. She'd been surprised, and for a fighter like Niran, surprise was an insult. She came forward, a jab to the body, a knee to his midsection that folded him. Jackie felt the air leave his lungs and he clinched, grabbing her around the neck and pulling her close. In boxing, the clinch is a rest stop. You hold on, the referee separates you, you reset. But there was no referee. And in Muay Thai, the clinch is a weapon. Niran grabbed the back of his head with both hands and yanked it down. Her knee came up. It caught him on the ribs. Then again. 3 knees in the clinch, each one landing on the same spot on his right side. Jackie tried to push her away, but she had control of his head, and she was stronger in this position than he expected. She drove another knee into his body, and he felt something crack. Not break, but crack. A rib flexing past its limit. He finally shoved her off and staggered backward. His right side was on fire. He pressed his elbow against his ribs and tried to breathe. Niran stood her ground, bouncing lightly, waiting. Believe me, if this fight had ended there, it would have been a footnote. Another male boxer who underestimated a female Muay Thai fighter and paid for it. But Jackie Chen was not a footnote kind of person. He straightened up. He took his elbow away from his ribs. He put his hands back up. And he did something that Master Gao had never taught him. Something that came from somewhere deep in his gut. He started cutting angles. In boxing, angles are everything. You don't stand in front of your opponent. You move to the side, just a degree or two, just enough that their center line is off. You make them turn, you make them adjust. And every time they adjust, there's a gap, a window, a moment where their guard isn't quite where it should be. Jackie started circling to Niran's right, not retreating, circling. Every step he took was lateral, forcing her to pivot. And Niran, for the first time in the fight, looked uncomfortable. Muay Thai fighters like to stand in the pocket. They like to engage at mid-range where their kicks and knees and elbows can work. But Jackie wasn't at mid-range. He was at boxing range, close enough to punch, too close for her power kicks, and always moving. He threw a jab. It landed on her guard. He threw another. It landed on her forehead. He threw a third and slipped right, and when she reached for the clinch, he was already gone, already on her flank, already throwing a right hand that crashed into her ribs. She fired back with an elbow. It cut the air where his head had been a quarter second earlier. He ducked, came up, and threw an uppercut that caught her under the chin. Her teeth clicked together, and she backpedaled for the first time all fight. The crowd shifted. You could feel it. The money in the room was on Niran, every single bet. And now those bets were looking shaky. Somkai, standing in the corner, uncrossed his arms. Here's what you need to understand about what happened next. This wasn't a movie. There was no dramatic stare-down, no pause where both fighters caught their breath and exchanged meaningful looks. This was a fight, a real one. And in a real fight, momentum shifts happen in fractions of seconds, and if you blink, you miss the moment where everything changes. Jackie pressed forward. Jab, cross, hook. Jab, cross, hook. He was finding a rhythm now, the rhythm of a boxer who finally understands the distance. Niran covered up, absorbing punches on her guard, waiting for him to pause. But he didn't pause. He kept throwing. And with each punch, he was backing her up, step by step, inch by inch, toward the edge of the mat. And here's where it should have gone wrong. Because Niran hit the edge of the mat, and instead of stepping off, she planted her feet. She dug in, and she threw a head kick. Not a casual kick, not a setup kick. A full power roundhouse aimed at Jackie's left temple. The kind of kick that ends careers, the kind of kick that puts people in ambulances. Niran had knocked out 5 opponents with that exact kick. It was her signature, her exclamation point, and she threw it with everything she had. Jackie saw it coming, just barely, just in time. He pulled his head back and the kick whistled past his nose. He felt the wind, he felt the heat, he felt the nearness of unconsciousness. And in that fraction of a second, with Niran's kicking legs still extended and her weight on one foot, Chen stepped forward and threw a right hand that he'd been throwing on the heavy bag since he was 16 years old. It landed on Niran's jaw. Her head turned, her body followed. Her standing leg buckled and she went down. Not a dramatic fall, not a Hollywood collapse. She just went down, onto one knee, then onto her hip, then flat onto the mat with her arms half extended. The room went dead. Jackie stood over her, breathing hard, his right side screaming where those knees had landed, his left leg throbbing from those early kicks, his hands swollen inside his wraps. He looked down at Niran and he waited. She didn't get up. For 5 seconds, nobody moved. 10 seconds. 15. Somchai stepped forward and knelt beside Niran. He checked her eyes. He checked her breathing. He looked up at Jackie with an expression that was impossible to read. Then he stood and raised Jackie's hand. Nothing. No applause. No cheering. Just the sound of 70 people recalculating how much money they'd just lost. Jackie pulled his hand free from Somchai's grip. He walked to where Niran was now sitting up, blinking, pressing her hand against her jaw. And this is the part people always forget when they tell this story. This is the part that matters more than the punch. Jackie knelt down beside her. He reached out his hand, not to shake, to help her up. And he said quiet enough that only she and the people in the front row could hear, "You're the hardest fight I've ever had." Niran looked at his hand. She looked at his face. She took his hand and pulled herself up. She stood there for a moment, swaying slightly, and then she nodded. One nod, that was it. That was the entire exchange between two people who had just tried to put each other unconscious on a basement floor in Bangkok. But let me tell you what happened after the handshake, because the fight was just the beginning. Somchai paid Jackie in cash. $10,000 in American bills, counted out on a folding table in a back room while Master Gao stood by the door with his arms crossed. Jackie took the money and put it in his bag, next to the photograph of his mother and the gloves he'd just used to knock out an undefeated champion. And then Somkai said something that changed everything. "Come back next month. I'll have another fighter for you. 20,000. Jackie looked at Master Gao. Gao's face was stone. $20,000. That was 2 years of construction wages. That was freedom. That was possibility. Jackie shook his head. No. Somkai leaned forward. 30. No. 50. I'll bring someone from Myanmar, a real killer. The crowd will double. 50,000 cash. Jackie picked up his bag. He slung it over his shoulder. And here's the thing that turns this story from a fight into a legend. He walked toward the door and he stopped next to Somkai. He was close enough that the promoter could smell the sweat on him, close enough that they could have whispered secrets. And Jackie said, "I didn't come here to become your attraction. I came to find out what I was worth." He tapped his chest once. "Now I know." He walked out. Mark my words. That decision, that single no, is the reason you're hearing this story right now. Because Jackie went back to Taipei. He went back to the construction site. He went back to hauling rebar. But he gave the $10,000 to Master Gao and he said, "Use this. I need to train full-time, no more day job." Master Gao used every dollar. He expanded the gym. He brought in a kickboxing coach from Japan. He hired a conditioning specialist. He built Jackie Chen into something more than a boxer. He built him into a fighter, a complete fighter. A man who could punch and kick and clinch and defend and move in ways that made boxing purists uncomfortable and Muay Thai fighters nervous. Within 6 months, Jackie entered the Asian amateur kickboxing circuit. He won his first tournament in Manila. He won his second in Seoul. He won his third in Tokyo, beating a Japanese fighter who had been nationally ranked for 3 years. By the time he was 22, Jackie Chen had a professional record of 12-0, and promoters across Asia were calling Master Gao's gym. Legitimate promoters this time, not basement operators. But here's the part that makes this story legendary. You ready? Hold on. In 1991, Jackie got an invitation to fight in a professional kickboxing event in Bangkok, sanctioned, televised, and when he looked at the fight card, his opponent was listed as Niran Kaiduisai. She was 18-1 now. She'd avenged her only loss. She'd won 3 more bouts by knockout. And she had specifically requested to fight Jackie Chen, not for revenge, not for pride, for respect. You see, after their basement fight, Niran had gone through something. That loss haunted her, but not because she was bitter, because it showed her a gap in her game. She'd never faced a boxer who could cut angles the way Jackie could. She'd never been forced off the center line. So she spent 2 years working on her lateral movement, her clinch defense, her ability to fight off the back foot. She rebuilt herself, and she wanted to test the new version against the only person who had ever cracked her foundation. Believe it or not, when Jackie heard it was Niran, he said yes immediately. No negotiation, no counteroffer, just yes. The fight was held at Lumpini Stadium, not the basement, not a back room. The most famous Muay Thai venue in the world. 8,000 seats, television cameras, ring girls and referees and judges with scorecards. Everything Jackie's first fight with Niran wasn't, this one was. The weigh-in was the day before. Jackie came in at 152, Niran came in at 146. They stood face to face for the photographs and something passed between them, not hostility, recognition. They knew each other in a way that only people who have traded real violence can know each other. At the weigh-in, a reporter asked Jackie if he was concerned about fighting a woman. Jackie didn't answer the question. He looked at the reporter and said, "She hits harder than most men I've trained with. Ask me a real question." The reporter asked Niran if she wanted revenge. Niran shook her head. "I want answers." Fight night. The stadium was packed. The noise was massive. Jackie walked to the ring first, wearing plain black shorts and plain black shoes. No robe, no entourage. Just Master Gao behind him, carrying a towel and a water bottle. Niran came out next, wrapped in the traditional Mongkon headband for the Y Crew ceremony. She performed the ritual dance in the ring, the movements slow and precise and beautiful, and Jackie stood in his corner and watched. He didn't stretch. He didn't shadow box. He watched. And when she finished, when she removed the Mongkon and handed it to her corner, Jackie dipped his head, just slightly, just enough. An acknowledgement. The bell rang. And immediately, everything was different. Niran didn't come forward with low kicks. She came forward with combinations. Jab, cross, low kick, jab, body kick, elbow. She was mixing levels, mixing weapons, doing things she hadn't done in their first fight. She'd studied Jackie. She'd watched tapes. She'd trained specifically for his angles, his footwork, his tendency to circle right. Jackie ate a jab and fired back with a cross. Niran slipped it and cracked him with an elbow to the brow. Blood opened over his right eye. First round, 30 seconds in, blood in his eyes. Master Gao said nothing from the corner. He just stood there with the towel. Jackie blinked through the blood. He wiped his brow with his glove and saw red. He tasted copper where it ran into the corner of his mouth, and instead of backing up, instead of clinching, instead of stalling for time, he changed levels. He dipped low, came up under her guard, and delivered a shovel hook to her liver that made her knees buckle. Niran grabbed him. She tried to clinch. But Jackie had learned too. He had spent 2 years training clinch defense, learning how to deny the neck grip, how to pummel inside and create space. He broke her grip. He stepped back. And he unleashed a 3-punch combination that would end up on highlight reels for the next decade. Jab to the body, cross to the jaw, left hook to the temple. Niran staggered. She dropped to one knee. The referee stepped in and started counting. The crowd erupted. 8,000 people on their feet screaming. But Niran got up at 7. She got up and she put her hands up and she nodded at the referee. "I'm good. Let me fight." The referee looked at her eyes. He looked at her stance. He waved the fight on. Jackie came forward, but Niran was ready. She timed his jab, slipped it, and threw a head kick that caught him on the ear. Jackie's equilibrium exploded. The room tilted. His legs went sideways. He stumbled into the ropes and Niran was on him immediately, throwing knees to the body, elbows to the guard, punches through every gap she could find. Jackie covered up. He took 4, 5, 6 shots. His body was being hammered. His ear was ringing. His right eye was swelling shut from the cut. And for a moment, for one terrible moment, it looked like it was over. It looked like Niran Kaisai was about to avenge her only loss on national television in front of 8,000 people. But that's not what happened. Jackie planted his feet. In the middle of the storm, in the middle of the barrage, he found his base. He set his back against the ropes, and he threw a straight right hand through the center of Niran's offense, through the gap between her elbows, and it caught her flush on the nose. She stepped back. Her eyes watered. Blood ran from both nostrils. And in that half-second of space, Jackie pushed off the ropes and fired the same combination. Jab to the body, cross to the jaw. But this time, no left hook. This time, he threw a right uppercut that started at his hip and traveled straight up through the center of Niran's guard and caught her under the chin. Her feet left the mat. Not much, half an inch, but they left the mat. She landed on her back. The referee didn't count. He didn't need to. He looked at Niran's eyes. He looked at the way her hands were loose at her sides. He waved it off. Fight over, and here is the decisive moment. Not the punch. What came after? Jackie didn't celebrate. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't scream. He walked to Niran's corner, where her trainers were climbing through the ropes with ice and towels, and he waited. He stood there, bleeding from his eye, his body covered in welts from her knees and elbows, and he waited until she was sitting up, until she could see him. Then he knelt down, the same way he had in that basement 2 years earlier, and he said 7 words. "Thank you for making me this good." Niran's eyes filled. She reached up and put her hand on his cheek, palm flat against his face, and she held it there for 3 seconds, no words, just that touch. And then she pulled her hand back and her corner closed around her and the moment was over. If you've made it this far, you already know this is the kind of story that changes how you think about fighting, about respect, about what it means to compete. If you want more stories about legends nobody talks about, hit that subscribe button right now. 1 click and you'll never miss another one. Now let me tell you what happened to both of them. Jackie Chen went on to become one of the most successful kickboxers in Asian history. 28 wins, 2 losses, 19 knockouts. He won titles in 3 weight classes. He fought in Japan, in the Netherlands, in Las Vegas. He became the thing that some Kai wanted to exploit. A spectacle, a draw, a name that sold tickets. but he did it on his own terms. He never went back to the basements. He never fought for promoters who operated outside the rules. Every bout was sanctioned. Every opponent was paid. Every fight was fair. He retired in 1998 at the age of 29. He opened a gym in Taipei. He taught kids from the same neighborhood where he used to haul rebar. He never charged families who couldn't afford it. And Niran? Here's the beautiful part. Niran Keosai retired after her second loss to Jackie. But she didn't disappear. She became one of the most respected Muay Thai trainers in Thailand. She opened a camp in Chiang Mai that specialized in training female fighters. And over the next 15 years, she produced 4 national champions and 2 world title contenders. Her students fought with a style that was unmistakable, technical, precise, patient, but with one addition that Niran had learned from a 20-year-old Taiwanese boxer in a Bangkok basement. They could cut angles. They could fight off the center line. They could box. Niran and Jackie stayed in contact. Not close friends, not regular phone calls, but once a year, every year, Jackie would fly to Chiang Mai and spend a week at Niran's camp. He'd train with her fighters. He'd spar with her students. He'd sit with Niran on the porch of her gym in the evening, and they'd drink tea and talk about the fights and the years and the way the sport was changing. And every time someone asked either of them about the basement fight, about that first encounter in 1989, they told it differently. Jackie always said Niran was the toughest opponent he ever faced. Niran always said Jackie was the only fighter who ever made her feel like she had more to learn. Different versions, same truth. The last time Jackie visited Chiang Mai was in 2014. He was 45. His knees were shot. His hands ached when it rained. But he still shadowboxed every morning, still moved with that compact, angular footwork that had changed the game 25 years earlier. He and Niran sat on the porch. The students had gone home. The gym was empty. Niran poured tea and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd said yes to Somchai?" Jackie sipped his tea. He looked out at the mountains. "Every day," he said, "and every day I'm glad I didn't." Because here's the truth. The thing that made Jackie Chen a legend wasn't the punch that knocked out Niran Keosai. Wasn't the technique, wasn't the speed. It was the choice to walk out of that basement with his dignity instead of his greed. The choice to build something instead of being something that somebody else built. The choice, at 20 years old, with $50,000 on the table, to say no and mean it. That punch in the basement was brutal. Nobody denies it. A 20-year-old kid from Taipei knocking out an undefeated Thai champion on her home turf in a fight with no rules and no safety net. That's the kind of thing that sounds made up. But it happened. On a Tuesday night, in a room full of smoke and money and violence, Jackie Chen proved that a boxer could fight a kickboxer and win. But the legend, the real legend, the one that people whisper about in gyms across Asia 35 years later, isn't about a punch. It's about a kid who knelt down beside the woman he'd just beaten and told her she was the reason he was great. It's about 2 fighters who turned a brutal underground brawl into the foundation of a friendship that lasted decades. It's about the moment when Jackie Chen looked at a promoter offering him more money than he'd ever seen and chose to walk away. That's the story. That's the legend. And I promise you right now, somewhere in a gym in Taipei and a camp in Chiang Mai, someone is telling it again